When did Drake Jackson first land on your radar, and what do you like about him, and were you surprised when he was available?
To answer your question, yeah, I was surprised when he was still available at 61. I really didn't. I always try to predict where guys are going to go, and just looking at skill sets and, looking what, value they can add to, not only us but the other 31 teams in the NFL. And, just watching Drake, I probably started watching him a couple weeks before the Combine. We try to get a couple games, 2 to 3 games watched before the Combine so we can kind of, see if, through the workout at the Combine, through the interviews at the Combine, if this is the guy that we're seeing on tape. So I'd watch probably 2 to 3 games on Drake before we had our Combine interview, and just the skill set, just first off the pass rush ability, the bend on the edge, ability to win one-on-one on the edge, ability to flatten out at the top of his rush, and then the second burst, what I call once you got your first burst where you get off the football and you're into the blocker, and then once you beat the blocker, and then you have a second burst to the quarterback where the sacks show up. Then the second burst just jumped off the tape, and then he has really long arms to elongate along with that second burst to that I could see becoming a really productive NFL pass rusher.
Thank you.
I was going to ask, just what was your conversation like with Eric Armstead last year when you kind of altered his role a little bit, and what did that show you or tell you about his willingness to take on something that kind of change in midstream, so to speak?
Yeah, it's obviously it's not ideal to however many games it was into the season. I think it was week 7, week 8, somewhere in there, where Eric's role was playing outside, on run downs, and then moving inside on second and long, third down, 2-minute, things like that. But then we had some injuries inside, and we got a little thin. And Eric and I have a good relationship since the day I walked in this building. He's been great for me. So I just pulled him in, and I was like, look, and I didn't mandate anything. I said, hey, I'm just bouncing this off of you. What do you think about it? This is kind of what I'm thinking to help us, solidify what we're trying to do in there in the run game, and let you use your length in there, similar to kind of like what Buck did in 2019 in there. And he was all for it. Eric, and the main thing, he showed me that he's an unselfish player. He's a team-first guy. He's been a captain the last 2 years. The guys look up to him. And most people can't make that transition mid-season. If you're going to make that type of transition, it usually needs to be in the off-season, giving the OTAs to get kind of acquainted in there, and then sharpen it out during camp, and then hit the ground running week 1, where he gets thrown in there week 7, week 8. It's not the easiest thing to do, and Eric excelled in there as the season went on. He got better as the as experience, being a full-time interior guy, stacked up and more reps, and he got better as the season went on. Then, in the playoffs, I thought he played his best ball, was a difference-making type player in there, run and pass. He had a lot of run production, too.
So do you see that as a permanent change now? Is that his role now?
Yeah, but like I said, versatility. Our guys can slide inside, outside. He's going to play defensive tackle role, but at any given time, Eric can be out there at defensive end. He's a versatile player, can play multiple roles. So always look for versatility across the front. Try not to pigeonhole any guy into one spot.
With Nick Bosa now a year removed from his ACL, and he's played a whole season, what does he have to do this coming season to even have a bigger impact for your defense?
The small things.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a rookie and you got that blank slate, and you're just learning everything for the first time, you take really big jumps. Mm-hmm. But then you become a player at the caliber of Nick. There's just a small, minute details within your craft. Just continue to work on pad level, inside hand placement, leverage, perfection with his hands, his feet. Can I take a millisecond off of a rush and turn a hit into a sack, a sack into a sack strip, a game-changing type play. So it's just little small things that you got to continue to work, because if you don't work it, you're never going to improve at it. You constantly got to be improving in the NFL, even the top players like Nick. So it's the small things, small details.
One of the things that a lot of fans would complain about last year and years past is holding calls that go uncalled, I guess. on
Yeah.
Nick. Is there any way to change that, or like is it different approaches? I mean, what do you tell him? Does he get frustrated?
I think Nick's kind of answered the question multiple times for y'all. We can sit here and cry on our spilled milk, or we can, hey, do everything we can to not let them hold us. It's not in our hands. That call's not in our hands.
Right.
Obviously there's times where I feel like, that he should get a few holding calls here and there, but, can't sit around and pout about not getting a call. Line up, play the next snap, do everything we can to not let him hold us.
I look at your defensive line group, and I mean, it's a deep group, and it's pretty clear that not everybody can make it. Is that a conversation that you even have with those guys that, if you can't make it here, you can make it somewhere else? Try to just stay in your lane and control what you can control?
Not so. I think it's pretty clear in the NFL that if you play well enough, in preseason games and you put your best foot forward, that there's probably always going to be a place for you in the NFL. I'm just upfront with them, right from the start. I'm just telling them, hey guys, we are always looking to acquire as many talented players as we can up front here. That's just, the nature of the business here with 49ers. We believe in the strength in numbers with our D-line. So when we see talented players that we have a chance to, acquire and bring here, then we're gonna jump on opportunities always to add talent up front. So if you're sitting here counting numbers and worried about how many guys are sitting in the room that are really talented, you're worried about the wrong thing. You need to worry about putting your best foot forward and being the best you and working your butt off to carve out your role within the grand scheme of things. So they know that we're going to add talent, so it doesn't catch anybody off guard when you feel like we already got a stacked unit, and then next thing you know, we draft a Drake Jackson, and so it doesn't, no one's calling me on the phone saying, they feel like we already got enough. So they know that we're always looking to acquire talent here up front. We want a deep group. We feel like you're always going to need a lot of D linemen through the course of the year, and you want to be able to put talented players out there when the time comes when you need them. So that's kind of our philosophy, starting with John and Kyle, and kind of what brought me here to the Niners, their vision for what a D-line should be.
Yeah, even before the draft, Kamoko, Turay, someone who was kind of, was after the first wave of free agency, but he's played some good football.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him.
Just, you just saw a talented player, when he was on the field. You saw another guy, that a great first step, explosive, can close distance on the offensive tackle quickly, pass rush skill set, bend around the edge, hand use on the edge, hands and feet are tied together. Guy that can beat a guy across his face. And then, the more I watch Kamoko, the guy just played hard. Okay, I like the way he making tackles across the field, trying to protect 53.5 by Hunter and running to the ball and making plays on screens. So, but Kamoko's a guy that I've kind of liked, ever since he came out of Rutgers.
You look at the guys. How much of it is you going to Kyle in the front office saying, "Hey, I like this guy," and how much is it them coming to you saying, "What do you think about this guy?" How does that?
The great part about here with John and Kyle and they have things structured. It's a collaborative effort. Scouts, all of our scouts, our pro scouts, our college scouts know they can pop their head in my office. If I tell them, if you see a guy that you feel is talented enough to play here, always bring him to me. And hey, let's sit down, let's watch him. And then when we have, our draft meetings, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's kind of knows what skill sets we look for, and it's pretty well-oiled machine when it comes to looking for the talent that we want to acquire. Our scouts do a great job. John, and his staff do a great job of, trying to identify the talent that we're looking for, so we're not wasting time, looking at guys that we know can't play in our scheme. So it kind of streamlines it from the top down, and it makes my job easier as the year goes on, and you got a certain amount of players that you got to look at, and that you're not going to be popping on a tape, wasting a lot of time looking at a guy that you can watch 5 clips on and see that he can't play for us from a skill set talent standpoint.
Kris, when I talked to Kinlaw last month, he seemed really happy. He said he's the healthiest he's been since like his sophomore year in college. So I'm like, I'd imagine you've seen that the last couple months around here, the facility, him working out. So what are you expecting out of him this season?
Just for him to continue to get better. You know, he went through the injury last year, which is all, you know, any injury for a player's tough going through it. Nick went through it the year before. We've had multiple guys, you know, go through it. So the initial stage of it's tough, you know, when you're sitting there and with a knee brace on and, you know, watching that, you know, your teammates play. So that's always tough. But then, you know, as you start to rehab and you start to see gains, you know, your spirits, you know, get better and better. And then you actually start seeing gains with strength, mobility, change of direction, you know, weight, you know. So I just get, you know, see him as an ascending player, expect him to just keep getting better and better. Eventually put this, the knee totally behind him, and it'll be the player that, you know, we saw coming out.
You're universally regarded as one of the best, if not the best, defensive line coaches in the game. Do you aspire to be a coordinator, a head coach, or is D-line your passion?
D-line's my passion. You know, when I was younger, you know, I conceptually, I always kind of want to know what's going on within the defense, just so, you know, when I'm watching, you know, tape on our defense, you know, I can see where breakdowns happen and who should be in gaps and, you know, what coverages we're in. But my eyes are always drawn back to the front. You know, when I was younger, first 3 or 4 years in the league, I took every single note I could possibly take on coverages and all this stuff, and then I'd be taking notes on coverages when I was watching the D-line. So, you know, since I was in middle school, I've always put my hand in the ground, something I have a passion for, and something that I really don't see changing.